So you've made it through the week, and here we are at our final lesson on how to make a website. This is actually not really a lesson so much as it's okay, well, what do I do now? There are a lot of things that you can actually do once you have the basics of HTML and CSS down, which hopefully you do at this point from watching the previous lessons. Now what you can do is learn more by simply browsing the web to a site that you like, or a site that has an element that you like and want to learn more about, and viewing the source code. Now that you know how to read HTML, viewing the source code should be something that makes a lot more sense to you than it once did, if you ever viewed the source code in the first place. So I'm here on this website, and I'm curious about how some of these elements are formed, and I'm going to go to View, and I'm going to choose View Source. And in most web browsers, you'll find View Source under the View menu. This is not always the case, but it's usually the case. I haven't seen a web browser where it isn't the case, so I'm really just assuming that it might not always be the case, but it could quite possibly always be the case. Either way, what you're looking for is an option to view source. It's usually Command or Control U, or Command Option U, or Control Alt U, but there's usually a U in it. I'm not sure why, but what it will do is bring up this, and this is the source code HTML. Safari is a really bad example of a source viewer. I think Safari was designed with people in mind who aren't going to be looking so much at the source code, whereas Chrome and Firefox work a little bit differently and expect that you might be looking at the source code. And why I say Safari is bad is because you just see a bunch of plain text. And as we talked about when we looked at HTML in the first lesson, the source code was highlighted. Different elements in the source code was highlighted because of the text editor I was using, and because most good text editors that are geared towards programming have syntax highlighting. Now, Chrome and Firefox will provide syntax highlighting when you view the source, but Safari will not. So that is the downside of viewing a source in Safari. Now, as you can see here, we're looking at the actual code that makes up this website. Now, if you view a dynamic website, meaning it uses server-side code like PHP, for example, to generate the HTML, what you see is not necessarily going to be an accurate depiction of the source code, but it is enough. It is the source code of what you're seeing on the page, regardless of whether it's server-side or not. As you can see here, we've got a lot of HTML information, and we can see what they've done. And you can see that if you wanted to find CSS, you can see that they are that they have a CSS file being linked here, and you can also see that they're using what looks like a web font, because there's a JavaScript here that's pointing to Typekit. So we can go to typekit.com and see what that brings up. And yes, indeed, it is a way to bring in custom fonts using the @fontface tag, which we talked about in brief in a previous lesson. And so that makes them able to use fonts that they couldn't otherwise use on the web and ensure that they would display exactly how they wanted. So this is the main thing. View a source when you want to learn something. When you find something on a website that interests you, that you want to implement in your own site, you can start searching around in the source code of the HTML and also to the CSS if you desire, and find out what you can do in order to achieve those results. The other things that you want to pay attention to when you're learning more is basically just which sites to look at and which ones not to. Let's say I wanted to learn how to make rounded corners in CSS. There are a lot of options here, and one thing that is worth paying attention to. I mean, really, when you're trying to learn anything, you can go to pretty much any site and try it out, and if it doesn't work very well, then you know that you kind of got screwed. But sometimes there'll be missing information, and we talked about rounded corners, how sometimes they don't display as good as they could in all browsers. And this tutorial right here is showing you how to do it with images. How you can just cut the corners off and then use them to create a rounded rectangle. So you want to really be sure of what you're looking for when you're searching for it. So if you want to do something entirely in CSS, or you don't want to use images, or you'd rather use JavaScript over everything else, which is probably not the case, but however you want to accomplish it, you need to be aware of that when you're searching as well, because there are going to be a lot of tutorials out there that are going to show you how to do different things in different ways, and you need to make sure that the way that you want to learn is the way that you're searching for. So otherwise you can end up finding methods that may not work as well. So try to find the Holy Grail. If you can't, then start looking at other options. Another thing you want to avoid is W3 schools. So if I were, looking for CSS lists, and I just wanted to get some reference on lists, W3 schools is generally either the top item or it's close to it. And W3 schools, I'm not going to click on this, but they tend to provide inaccurate or at least incomplete information, and we'll include a link to more information why you don't want to use W3 schools for your HTML and CSS or really any type of education. But there's a site called w3fools.com or .org, I don't remember at the moment, but it explains why you shouldn't use, okay, so does .com, why you shouldn't use W3 schools. And so you can read more about that if you are interested. Anyway, those are a few ways to learn all by yourself using Google. If you want to further your HTML and CSS education, we'll also include more links in this post so you can find additional resources to learn more through more traditional means that are a little less do-it-yourself and a little more educational in terms of screencasts like you're getting right now. And so we'll provide that and links to the stuff that you're seeing on your screen. So that's all for our HTML CSS introduction. You now know how to make a basic website. We hope that you continue your education and start making some really great stuff. If you do make anything really awesome that you learned how to do using this night school course, please feel free to post it in the comments and share it with everybody. So that's all. Thanks for learning with us, and have a happy and fun time making websites.